Greetings, fellow travelers. Welcome on in. This is the RPG Cave level 171. Yes, friends, that's a palindrome. I am one of your hosts, the level 199 human Dark Lord, Ryan Turford, and I am joined, as always, by the level 199 Elf Battle Alchemist, Dr. Garret. How's it going, Garret?
I failed you, Ryan.
Uh-oh.
I failed you. I woke up and I was like, dang, I'm late. I'm so late. But no, I just told you give me another 15 minutes and I just walked the dog around. Of course, the little doggo had to meet with like 4 other dogs outside.
Of course.
And come back, make myself a latte. Was right here, prompt, ready to go. So I'm here. I'm here, Ryan.
Nice. I'm glad you're here, Garret. I'm glad you made it to the show.
I made it.
After all. But
I was sprinting, but we all made it, so.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's a ripe Saturday morning. You know, the weather's looking nice outside. You know,
it is a pretty nice.
The price of eggs is stabilized. It's great.
I don't know if it's stabilized or not. It's probably still $7 or $8 per carton. I don't know. Eggs are pretty rough these days in the U.S. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I heard. I mean, I saw some places where it was like $12 or $13 a carton for eggs.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Right. Thank goodness for Costco because they keep the same price and at least 2 dozen.
Yeah. I love, by the way, after we talked about that last episode, and then I, of course, showed you the picture of the eggs at my grocery store. Like all kinds of people came out of their woodwork to talk about egg prices in the RPG chat.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. I think everything else is okay, but the egg prices are pretty rough. So
yeah.
Every time I go to Trader Joe's, no eggs. They're replaced by blueberries.
Oh, of course. That's just equivalent exchange right there. They're both round, I guess.
They're both round. You can hold them in your hand.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it. You can have them for breakfast. Both
that's
of them,
true.
So,
just like eggs.
Just like
one might say that they're excellent. You know.
Sure, you're not wrong.
This is the RPG Cave where we talk about RPGs all the time. I swear to God, we talk about RPGs all the time. So let's clear the dungeon so we can get to the raid boss as quickly as possible. So folks at home, if you want to support the show, if you like what we do, of course, you can always hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube, but also hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube, or if you're watching over at twitch.tv/carpoolgaming live, hit that follow button as well. All that stuff helps the channel grow. And also, if you're so inclined over on Twitch, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well over there if you want some cool emotes. If you're listening on audio feeds, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, maybe review us or rate us if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. All that stuff helps the show as well. Also, if you want one big podcast feed with the entire Carpool Gaming cinematic universe on it, head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/Carpool Gaming. We got some cool new content over there. Of course, Seth's Pants episode is out right now. We haven't confirmed yet who this week is, but you'll find out on Monday when the question post comes out. So you can check that out over there, as well as the mini indie the mini indie drive is now available on Patreon. That's, of course, Fuya's new indie game podcast.
Nice.
We have it in early access over on Patreon. It'll eventually get its own free feed with the artwork and merch and stuff like that. But we're doing this early access thing where it's going to be there for patrons first. And we would love y'all's feedback as well. If you haven't listened to it yet and you have your Patreon, get on that. Listen to that first episode. Let us know what you think about it. We really want to hear from you as to what you think about that show. And more importantly, Garret, it's kind of like our show in a lot of ways because it's kind of like a topic-based show, kind of like what we do on RPG Cave. So
cool.
I always feel I feel a little bit of I feel a little bit of closeness with that show in particular because I feel like it's very similar.
It's
to
the
us.
mini indie van.
Yeah,
that's what it's called. Sweet.
Right. Yeah. So make sure to check it out. It's exclusive to the Patreon for now. So make sure to check it out there. And again, if you don't have Patreon yet and you haven't signed up for the 7-day free trial, try out the 7-day free trial. Give it a listen, as well as all the other exclusive content over on Patreon because there's lots of
so much exclusive content from like the past years. You can listen to all of it. You can listen to our beautiful voices for the past, I don't know, was it 3 or 4 years now?
Yeah. Well, you can't. You just can't go through all of it because there's so much content on the Patreon.
Well, you could just put it, like on overnight too, so you can hear our voices while you sleep.
You see this, Garrett, but I did a calculation.
You did
last year that there's so much content on the Patreon.
You can't
currently
go through 7 days.
You can't. Even if you listen to it 24 hours a day for the entire 7-day free trial, you can't get through all of it.
Darn. Okay, you have to go 2x speed then.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
2x speed, you can't even do it either. You'd have to go 4.
It's so much content, man.
4x speed.
Can't even contain it in a 7-day double speed marathon here.
It's only going to get bigger there too. So just the longer time passes, the more stuff gets on Patreon. So make sure to check out the Patreon as well. But Garrett, let's dive into your 3 things. I'm excited to hear about your 3 things.
Okay, my number 1 thing. Of course, I posted it everywhere.
Yep.
It was crazy, dude. Like getting this thing, and I told you last week that I grabbed the 5080. So Best Buy delivered it. They made their promise. It came to my delivery package room in the apartment, and I got it. It was a big, my GPU 5080 Founders Edition came in a big box. Have you seen the packaging for the new Founders Edition?
No, but it's probably as big as like the PS5 packaging, I'm sure.
It's not. No, it's actually not as bad. So I mean, like the outer box is like the delivery box, but the actual packaging around the Founders Edition is really cool. It's like it's like stacked cardboard, kind of like just around the GPU itself. It feels like a little puzzle actually, and then you have these 2 little cardboard flaps that you just take off on both sides, and then you just lift it up and you see the GPU right there. It's actually a very great packaging. So but yeah, I got it. I open it up, I see it. Now I have to package it up and put it underneath my bed until I'm ready to build my PC, which will be later this year.
Yeah, that's what you told us last week too. You were like, you knew you were kind of getting things ahead of time because you knew you weren't going to be able to buy this later. So
yeah. I mean, obviously, when you see everything out there, it's sold out. Or I don't even want the the AIBs, the other third-party manufactured GPUs. They're just ugly. They're big. They have a bunch of packaging around it. They put like $300 extra for just nonsense. So I'm glad I got the Founders Edition. It looks very sleek. Looks very nice. Very great design. So very happy to get the 5080 Founders Edition. Just to know, I don't have a PC on me right now. So my gaming like PC or whatever is my laptop, and it's a 3060 mobile. So I jumped from a 3060 mobile to a 5080. I say that's warranted. That's
a big jump.
It's a big jump. Yeah.
Also, I just realized after you said that, Garrett, that I technically have a better graphics card in my computer than you do, which says a lot because I don't.
Or
sorry,
is it your Apple or your regular?
No,
PC?
my PC. The PC I'm streaming from right now.
Oh, what do you have in there?
I have a 3090.
Oh, I didn't even really. Yeah, I think you're good. 3090 is pretty good.
I say this because I barely play games on PC.
I know.
I mostly use it for like video editing and stuff like that.
That makes sense too. It has a lot of VRAM in there in the 3090. It was one of the I guess highlights or the gems of, because like you even I would say like you wouldn't even want to get the 5080 because it's lower VRAM.
Yeah.
Then the 3090, and the 3090 can still do all the DLSS stuff except for the multi-frame generation, which everyone's criticizing about. So I think you're good. I think people who have 3090s are swimming well right now. I think once you hit maybe 5080 Ti, put an extra VRAM in there or whatever, maybe the price will be good. But other than that, I think 3090s are pretty good.
Yeah. The games I have played on it have been great, but yeah, I just don't really play games at my computer. But yeah, it was mostly for it was mostly for video RAM, for the video RAM for my video editing and stuff. So.
Yeah, and that makes that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because I need that for my job, like my actual job. So
yeah. Cool, man. And then oh my gosh, I was looking up this morning. I can't believe this. I don't even well, I don't think not enough people are seeing this. I'm looking at the CPU I want. It's on sale on Amazon.
Interesting.
And it's like 20% off. I was like, what? So I might grab that today. But
will it be cheaper later, Garrett? Like, will it get to 30% at some point?
I don't think so. Especially with the tariffs in place and the limitation.
Oh, that's true.
I think, I think AMD is wanting to announce. I don't know if they announced like new Ryzen, like CPUs or whatever. I have to look into it, but this one's on sale. This is the one I want, the 7800 X3D. So.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay. Yeah, because actually, like when we talked last week, it was before they had paused the tariffs for a month. But you're right. Like those will actually probably happen at some point. So.
Well, I think, it doesn't matter where the tariffs, as long as the tariffs and the trade wars come in place, in any sort of way, there will be strain on the East Asian market in general. No matter what country, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, whatever. So I imagine these CPUs will be harder to get or be more expensive.
Well, computer supplies just in general going to be more expensive.
Yeah, electronics. So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I can't wait for the game consoles and actual games themselves to go up, or when the Switch 2 eventually gets released, Nintendo will be like, all right, this system was going to be $399, but it's actually going to cost $600 now thanks to tariffs.
I wouldn't think it would go that much.
I know, but I'm exaggerating a little bit. But
I don't. They wouldn't even say it like that. I hope no company would say it like that. They would just say the price, and that's pretty much it. But you remember how Sony secretly increased their prices? I forgot. They increased their console and their controller prices in certain countries. Like
this one, like in Canada.
Oh, in Canada.
The PS5 has only gone up in price since it came out. It's not gone down in price. like the longer the PlayStation 5's life cycle has gone on, the more expensive the consoles become.
That is insane to hear, actually.
Because I think it's $100 more now than it was when it first came out in Canada.
I bet people were just like smacking their heads like, why didn't I get a PS5 before this? But it was way before. It's like no one knew this would happen at all.
Well, you also couldn't, many people like me just couldn't even get one at launch.
Yeah, that's true. It was very limited supply back in the day. So
yeah.
Oof,
that's why it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Switch 2 this year. Because I'm curious to know what the supply is going to look like for that thing.
It's sounding hopeful. It's sounding like they really made. And actually, at the same time, I'm predicting that the demand will be high. I don't doubt it. I wonder how high demand is going to be compared to Switch 1. Maybe it'll be a little higher, but not that much higher initially. We'll see.
That's true.
I don't know. I can't predict these things. No one can predict these things.
Yeah. I also remember that Switch 1 was hard to find for at least the first couple months it was out. Mm-hmm. And then it eventually settled down a little bit. So
I remember getting my Switch 1. It was oh man, I was at my GameStop in Lubbock, Texas, Texas. I actually was thinking, I'm not going to get a Switch. I have too many, even at that time, 2017, I'm like, I have too many games. Yep. I have too many games to play. And then I saw Breath of the Wild. I saw Skyrim. I saw it on handheld. And I'm like, I gotta get it. So I got week 2 when Switch 1 came out. So
okay.
The rest was history.
I went to a midnight launch for Switch.
Oh, you went the midnight launch
because nice. I pre-ordered it. As soon as pre-orders went up, and I went to my local GameStop downtown Toronto at Yonge and Dundas, nice. And got my Switch 1 that night, and then went home with 4 games with it. So I had a good night with my Switch.
I don't know if I'll ever have that that feeling again of getting a console midnight release. At least.
I mean, I'm going to try and do that again with Switch 2. I'm going to pre-order it at my local store instead of doing it online, as long as they do local pre-orders, and then just go to the store at midnight and get it.
Nice. It's a great feeling. I did that with 360 as well. I was at a Best Buy super early in the morning, Remember when 360s were hard to come by?
Oh yeah.
2005, that Christmas time. Oh my gosh. So many good memories. Anyways, thing number 2 that I got going for you. I got early morning meetings all the time now with work.
Like how early in the morning are we talking, Garrett? So people have some context.
We started at 7.
Oh jeez, that's really early.
Yeah, we started like 7 a.m. and then, I have meetings throughout the day. It's not like it doesn't back off in the early afternoon or whatever. And it's just because we have people in Switzerland, we have people in Europe.
Oh my God,
that we got to meet with. And then next week we have like all hands, like, everyone needs to meet together on like multiple days. And like, so multiple days are at 7 a.m. And sometimes they're just back to back, like 7 a.m. until 11. Just like, all right, you're going to be in meetings like every
7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Oh my God. That's
no, not p.m.
I know.
Okay. That would be hardcore.
That's a lot of meetings.
It is a lot of meetings.
Yeah.
I can't get work done when I have meetings, It's like...
I was going to say, how much work are you really doing if you're spending half your day in meetings?
Exactly. It's not much. Not much at all. But
this is why, like, at my company, it's like, we do a half an hour meeting in the morning and half an hour meeting in the afternoon, and that's it. You're working the rest of the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Situation we have is like, it's like, we're the research like part of our company, so we have to make sure we're communicating with all of our teams like all the time, just to make sure we're all on the same page. We're not talking past each other, no one's like doing redundant work, and we got to make sure we're all there. But anyways, okay, so thing number 3, I've officially started my Mass Effect journey.
Let's
Mass Effect
go.
1. Yeah. Playing it on the Xbox now. I'm really hesitant to like keep going forward because of the resume function on Xbox, for particularly in certain games, and in this game, it doesn't work. It keeps going. The clock keeps going.
Oh, it's one of those.
Yes, because it's an Xbox One PS4 game or whatever. So I'm like, man, do I just install it on Steam and just go from in there? But I'm having a good time. I'm only like 3 or 4 hours in, so I might just keep on going forward with this. I just became the Spectre.
Okay. I know where you are.
Yeah. I'm almost like, and we'll get into it in our reviews. It's just like, what surprised me about this one is every person I talk to will give me a side quest.
They sure will. You don't have to do all of them, by the way. Please do not feel the pressure to do any or all of the side quests, but they really want you to do side quests.
I just go up to a random person, like, oh, this is a random person with a name that I can talk to.
Well, everyone's got a name there, by the way.
And I go there, and it's like, yeah, my brother's like lost. I'm just like, what? There's no question mark. There was no exclamation point. You just gave me a side.
Well, it's because you're a Spectre. They feel like they can ask you to do anything.
Oh my goodness! Anyways,
you're a person of the people, Garrett.
Apparently. But,
did you? Now the real question is, because you've been walking around the Citadel for a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Have you met Conrad Werner?
I think I did.
He's your biggest fan.
Yeah, I've met him.
Oh man, his quest line, Garrett. That's one that I would recommend you do, which is just you just keep going back to that spot when you come back to the Citadel later in the story, and you just meet up with Conrad Werner again. Oh man.
Oh so yeah, good. He was an interesting character. He was like, him and his wife wanted like a autograph or whatever.
Yep.
So.
Oh my God, it's so good.
It's in my side quest line right now. So
nice.
Cool.
Dude, I can't wait to talk to you about Mass Effect because I love that game. So I can't wait to hear what you think about it down the road.
Yeah.
As someone who's playing it for the first time, in 2025. So
isn't that crazy? And it holds up. Like I'm playing it. It's like, this is fun for sure. Yeah. So. And
they definitely made some improvements with this version, like the Legendary Edition over the original one. So I'm glad that you're playing that version of the game because there are like I said, there are some little things that would be really annoying to you probably if you were playing the OG version. Cool. Well, anyways, Garrett, before we read from the sacred text, I see a little side quest marker over there because there's actually a person over there with an exclamation mark over their head, Garrett. So we should probably go talk to them.
Oh, we need to talk to them.
Go on a side quest, Garrett, because Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 came out this
2.
week. Reviews are in, Garrett.
The reviews are in.
89 on OpenCritic.
That's pretty good, dude.
People like this game, Garrett.
Yeah. A lot of people like this game. It was not on my radar. Was it on your radar at all?
No, because this the part of it is like this is the type of game, and I kind of felt the same way about the first one. Because by the way, the first one for comparison had a 72 on OpenCritic. So
yeah, it was rough. So
yeah, much better this time around. But for me, like non-fantasy medieval stuff I'm not super into.
Got it. Okay.
So I wasn't like. That's why I wasn't like super excited about this one. But I know a lot of people were really excited about it because it basically looks like an Elder Scrolls game, but like in realistic fantasy.
Right.
Or sorry, realistic medieval times.
Right. I see like a lot of revisionist history with Kingdom Come Deliverance 1. You said 72 on OpenCritic. I wouldn't have guessed that if I would, because I just hear from a lot of people like, oh my gosh, the first one's so good. I can't wait for the second one. Yeah. That's the type of vibe I've been hearing.
Although it's one of those games, Garrett, where it's like it might have received some support over time. Maybe there were some bugs and stuff like, and that's maybe why it scored the way it did. That then were ironed out over time. Kind of like how I played Star Wars Outlaws for the first time since it came out this week, Garrett, and I'm like, that game is like so different compared to when I played it at launch.
Oh, thank goodness I'm gonna play it when it's like the best version of itself.
Yeah, I still wasn't really into it this time around, but I did like I could feel how much more fun it was to play this time around than it was originally. So it could have been one of those situations where like people maybe came to Kingdom Come Deliverance, the first one, really late. And then maybe it was all kind of patched out. But Riley King puts out a good point to your point, Garrett. No one in his fantasy critic league drafted the game or even bid on it.
Really? Wow. Yeah, no, there was one person that grabbed it in my league, and they did really well for themselves to grab this game. 19 points. That is pretty nice. But yeah, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, the way I'm hearing it, it's a direct sequel from the first one. Yep. Much more streamlined, much better in terms of just mechanics in combat. I still hear the similar things about like the same things to watch out for compared to one, where these type of games, they're very real mechanics. They think about mechanics like what you see in like Red Dead Redemption 2 or Death Stranding, where you have to really worry about all the different hand movements and like making like alchemy, making like or like doing there's directional blocking in this game. It's not like a hack and slash that you see in like Skyrim or Witcher. It's like you got to be very careful in this game, trying to survive, trying to really make sure you get you learn the mechanics really well. It'll take time. That's why I hear it's just like this is a slow game. It will take some time for you to get into it, but once you get there, you get very rewarded. It's a very fun game in general. So I am still like not, of course I'm not going to get into it anytime soon, but it'll be on my radar. We'll see if there's like, a definitive edition again. I actually do have the first one on Xbox, so I may just like play around with it just to see how the game is. But other than that is good for Warhorse Studios to making a really good game. So
yeah, I'm more than anything, I'm just glad people are enjoying it because like I said, I don't feel like both mechanically and setting wise, this doesn't really feel like a game that it kind of appeals to me. So I'm probably not going to play it at all this year. But I'm glad people are enjoying it, and they got what they were, the fan base got what they were looking for with this one.
I hear the writing's hilarious too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I hear it's like one of the best writing that they've had in like that type of setting, that type of game. So yeah. Okay. Whereas the only game right now that I'm like kind of sad that I don't get a chance to play because I can't buy games right now is Civ 7. I keep hearing people talk about Civilization 7. I'm like, dang it! I really wish I could play that game. It sounds my friend
so fun.
grabbed that one. Yeah, and people are loving that Civ 7.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's the 7th one out. I didn't even I have the 6th one. I really would like to get into Civ. I think it's one of those games I would it would take my year away.
Well, that's the thing with Civ for me, Garrett, because I started playing with Civ 4 on PC, and that game is like crack cocaine for me, Garrett. Where I can't, when I start playing that game, I can't stop playing it. I have to physically tear myself away from my computer to stop playing Civilization, because I get that hooked on.
It's like an MMO.
Yeah, kind of
like time sync.
Well, no, it's not that much of a time sync. You can probably play a full game of Civilization in 10 to 15 hours. Because one game itself goes for a long time, over many turns, but it's just there's just something so fun and addictive about the gameplay loop in that game that it just it pulls some kind of thing out of me, where it's just I can't stop playing it. So it's just I love it. Yeah.
A 3-hour session becomes like a 10-hour session.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also so much more fun if you have friends to play with too. But even if you just play by yourself, I have a lot of fun playing it by myself all the time. So maybe it's kind of gotten me maybe wanting to boot back up Civ 6 and go back into that. But I've heard some of the changes they made to this are actually really, really smart changes. So I'm I can't wait to play this one and go from there. And it sounds like it's going to be so much more accessible on console too, because before, playing that game before without keyboard and mouse kind of sucked. But
they just started with Civ 6, port it over and make the controller accessible. I did play Civ Revolution on my Vita.
Yep.
I thought it was a great simple. I love those type of games. I think just Civ, the main Civ games get so deep, and I'm oh my gosh, I would be.
Yeah, I heard with 7, it really streamlines a lot of it, so you don't have to worry about assigning individual workers to go build roads and stuff like that. I think a lot of the little really minute details you are kind of ironed out in a way that it probably makes it a lot smoother to play. But speaking of keyboard and mouse, Garrett, I also played Monster Hunter Wilds this week.
Oh, the beta.
The beta, and I'm instantly it was greeted with, do you want to play this with keyboard and mouse, or do you want to play with controller on PlayStation 5? And I thought that was pretty cool.
That's interesting.
Because there's this, half the controls menu is dedicated to just all kinds of crazy stuff, crazy customization with keyboard and mouse for that game.
So there's keyboard support on consoles.
Keyboard and mouse support, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
On PlayStation 5, and I believe on the Xbox version too. So
I don't even want to play that my keyboard and mouse on my PC for Monster Hunter. So it's interesting to hear. Okay.
Yeah, Age of Mythology, I know, which just came out on Xbox last year, also had keyboard and mouse support, and I think
that one makes sense.
The PS5 version's also getting that too. So, yeah, I like that we're starting to see more of that with consoles. That you're getting more keyboard and mouse support for games that are going to do better with it. But, anyways, good.
Age of Mythology and Age of Empires 2 coming to PS5. When I saw that, I was like, okay, sure. Cool.
I put Age of Mythology instantly on my wish list. I'm going to buy that when it comes to.
Oh man, I need to play that one. I love Age of Empires, so
yeah,
probably like Mythology.
It's it's basically just Age of Empires, but with Greek gods and stuff. Yeah, like fantasy stuff,
mythological stuff. Cool.
Yeah, but Garrett, we also had Avowed interviews.
Yes, we did.
Come out this week. Now I didn't get a chance to listen to any of these. But I know you were checking some of them out. But.
Yeah, there was some good stuff in there, a couple of videos or whatever. It just kind of reaffirms myself that I'm gonna definitely play Avowed day one. I might need a pause on the Mass Effect in order to just get through Avowed in some form or fashion. It seems like a very cool, very flexible game. It's I think we've heard the same things that we've heard before, where it's going to be open zone.
Yep.
It's going to be a tight experience, like 20 to 30 hours or something like that.
Yeah, originally they were expect Outer Worlds kind of length for it.
Yeah, pretty much. A big thing that I heard is that it will target 60 frames on Series X.
Yep.
So I think that's a big thing for the console players. But yeah, other than that, there wasn't major news hits on Avowed. It was just reaffirming that it's okay, this is the game I want to play.
Well, actually, Garrett, I like how you said you're going to play it day one, but did you know that game's actually out this week?
No, it's not. No, I thought it was February 18th or something like that.
But you're not factoring in 5 days early access if you get the premium edition.
Oh, I'm not going to do that.
I know. I just thought that was because it's technically out this week if you want the collector's edition for it.
I like how you say it's this week and it's Saturday.
I know, this week coming up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So they have 5 days early access on Avowed as well. Okay.
Yes,
cool.
If you get like the premium edition of it.
I understand. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Which is just crazy to get because it comes out on the 13th. So this coming Thursday.
Okay, and then the normal date would be the 18th, which is Tuesday, the following Tuesday. Okay, cool.
Yeah, which means we're going to get Avowed reviews this week, Garrett.
Yeah, we'll see how it is.
So then, why don't we put our predictions hats on? What do you think? How do you think Avowed's going to actually review, Garrett?
That's a good question. I have it on my fantasy critic.
Interesting. So you're a little you wanted to score a little bit higher than you.
Yeah, I do. I'm checking Outer Worlds 1
because I think that this is before you get there, Garrett. I think this game is probably just a 80, 81, maybe 82. Like I think it's going to be in like that 78 to 82 range is probably where I'm putting this game.
That makes sense. I'm gonna say a little higher. I'm gonna say 84.
Okay. Okay. I dig.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's not gonna probably be a masterpiece or gangbusters like high 80s, low 90s, but maybe a little better than the Outer Worlds 1, the first one, of course. 83 on OpenCritic. So just probably be similar to that, around that target. So I'm looking forward to it. For sure.
Because and Riley King just confirmed in the chat, Avowed reviews go live on Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern time.
Okay, cool.
So I'm excited. It's almost here, Garrett. I can't believe we're going to be playing Avowed very soon. Which, by the way, I also will be playing it day one because I will be playing it on the Tuesday the 18th. Because I can't buy games this year, so I can't even buy the premium edition even if I wanted to. I'm saving me from myself, Garrett. In this case,
got it. Yeah.
So and I believe actually it'll be out at midnight on the 13th, which means that it'll be actually out before the reviews. Yeah, which is interesting.
Also, the interesting tidbit I got from the interviews, the main, I guess she's the director or whatever.
We've seen her in a bunch of developer directs.
Yeah. She's amazing. She seems like a great person to talk to. She said that from the delay from November to now, they've been really working on polishing, but also adjusting the upgrade systems in the characters. So they did I guess they did some game balancing stuff as improvements since November. So I think that's kind of cool. Nice. To hear. So
also Riley King corrects me in the chat. 1 p.m. on Thursday is when it's out, not at midnight. So actually an hour after the views go up, it'll be out. So that's interesting. Okay.
Cool.
But anyway, I can't wait. Avowed is finally here, Garrett. We've been hearing about this game for like 3 years now.
Too long.
Yeah, it's finally going to be in our hands.
I remember when it was super mysterious. It was coming from Obsidian. We were like, I was super hyped about it. It's like, oh my gosh, it's the Skyrim for Obsidian. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be open. It's gonna be amazing. And then it's like, well, it looks great.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they showed a lot of gameplay from the past year and really communicating with the audience what this game is. So
and look forward to a future RPG game because we will definitely be talking about this game
for sure
when after we play it. So please be excited. But speaking of please being excited, Garrett, it is now time for us to read from the sacred texts because Nagachaka asks us a question. Even though I had come up with this topic ahead of time, but Nagachaka still felt like asking the same question I then asked the community.
For sure.
Nagachaka says, which RPG needs a Switch 2 upgrade the most from the original Switch? And why is it Xenoblade Chronicles 2? So we're going to talk about our Switch 2 RPG wish list. Basically, the RPGs that currently exist on Switch that we want to get see upgraded to Switch 2.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool.
Is it Xenobabe Chronicles 2, Garrett? Is that the one that needs it the most? Is it other games? I think Xenobabe Chronicles 2 is definitely on the list of games that needs this kind of upgrade.
It's top priority, man. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Especially handheld. It's like 540p or something. Just it just looks like garbage on a handheld. It's so rough. So yeah, I will put 2 very top. But the thing is, I want to be pretty careful going through this upgrade system. Like, let's figure out what would Nintendo do in this case. Right. Would they do a re-release on Switch 2 saying, hey, this is the definitive edition of Xenoblade Chronicles 2? I can totally see that. Because, they did that with Xenoblade Chronicles 1.
Yep.
And what stops them from doing that with 2? And then, do we think there's gonna be any more stability or smoothing or whatever by just playing the previous version on Switch 2?
That's true. Because I guess it just kind of depends, because where they kept the frame rate on the original Switch version, the resolution is probably going to be the same. If you play it, is really just going to be the frame rate might get close to 30, because before it did not run at 30 frames a second, Garrett. It certainly did not. It ran all over the place between 10 frames a second and 30 sometimes.
And there was an issue early on with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. There was a memory leak, I think.
I remember that.
Oh my goodness. And if you did not close your game in mid-play, if you just kept the session going forever, it will eventually just break.
Yep.
Maybe even break the save or whatever. It was
kind of like Elder Scrolls Elder Scrolls Skyrim on PS3.
PS3 was so bad.
Did that? Yeah, another thing where the save the save file could only get to a certain file size, or else it would just break the game and be unsavable or unplayable. You'd have to start over.
So I think the likely thing for this particular game, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, what they'll do is they will have a re-release. They will include Torna in there, all in one package.
Yeah.
For $60 or $70 on Switch 2. It's this is the definitive edition of Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Yep.
Here you go. And that's it.
And they know people will buy it because, again, we saw that with Xenoblade Chronicles 1, as you mentioned, but also all of these HD re-releases they've been doing, like Luigi's Mansion 2 or Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, the one that just came out. I think Nintendo's, keyed in that people will buy their games over and over again. So if they put enough features into this, they know the Xenobabes will come out in droves for this game, Garrett.
For sure. And
it also kind of, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
it also kind of gives them Monolith time to if they did this, to then work on whatever they have next. Because I imagine that's still very far away. So they can have more time to work on this and this can kind of delay, give them some time before that happens. Maybe,
yeah. And then we've been hearing some rumblings of what Monolith Soft is working on. It sounds like it may not just be Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah. I think it's probably a new IP.
Yeah,
or a new
IP.
Xeno IP of some
kind. Yeah. New Xeno IP, that would be cool. Or a crossover type of deal. So
that would be cool too.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I don't even like Xenoblade, and I would be interested in something like that.
Like a Xenogears, Xenoblade.
Xenoblade, Xenosaga,
Saga,
Blade crossover. Bring them all in. Bring in the mechs from Xenogears. You have Cosmos in there. You got...
I already have Cosmos on Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Yeah, but an actual character, Garrett, not just a sword that you get. Pyra, Mithra, and you get all those characters that are really fun.
Yeah, sounds good. But yeah, 2. I mean, I don't think they will do it, but it would be nice if they'll do Definitive Edition, Torna, here you go. But I actually don't think they'll do that. I think you can play 2 on Switch 2.
Yeah.
And you're good.
Yeah, so. I would hope so. But another game that kind of fits in that same thing that I know is probably on your list, or it might be, It's the most obvious one too. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Oh my goodness, I didn't even put it on there. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, dude, those games are good enough that they deserve to be released with actual upgrades visually and also to the frame rate, because like those games, I felt like they are probably some of the strongest Pokemon games released in the last like 10 to 15 years, but you can hardly play them because of the frame rate and how terrible they look.
Yeah, no, it's a rough one for sure. Yeah, they are strong Pokemon games. You know, I'm not too, as you could tell, I'm not too motivated to see that game upgraded or.
And to be fair, I know you're more of an Arceus fan too versus.
Yeah, definitely more of a Legends Arceus fan than Scarlet and Violet. I did enjoy the story near the end for Scarlet and Violet, but you're right. These games deserve better than the trash that they had in Switch 1.
Yeah.
It looked so bad. But it's not, I don't think it was a matter of hardware limitations, to be honest with you. It was the Pokemon company not like optimizing at all. And they're like, all right, we need to get this out. There's a deadline for this game and it's going to sell anyway. So let's just push it out. So,
and it's what's funny is that they released that statement after people were complaining about it, saying, "Oh yeah, we'll fix it at some point," and they never
did. Yeah. Man, I played that one like a couple months ago just to look around the area. I'm like, "Oh, buddy, this is, gosh, it's a jagged mess, and it doesn't look great."
Yeah, which again is too bad because the game itself is really good. Mm-hmm. I just wish you could actually really play it. Like that.
Yeah, that's a big obvious one. Is I'm very curious what's their thought about bringing games to Switch 2 and what we're thinking. Like, will they just be super conservative as what Nintendo does, and it's like, no, you could just play your old games on Switch 2 and that's it? Or will they have some actual definitive editions or re-releases or ports, free updates? I don't know, actually. This is kind of the first time. Well, it's not the first time, but it's like seeing Switch and Switch 2 going hand in hand. It's like the closest they've ever done with like consoles. I know Wii and Wii U was a thing, but that was still like a different time too, because Wii U was very unpopular and it was a very weird marketing strat with that.
We also, again, just didn't really have like any Pokemon releases there except Pokken tournaments. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm curious how it would go, but yeah, that's a good obvious one, Scarlet and Violet.
I'm curious to know, even if they don't go back and do like a definitive version or like an upgraded version, how that game just runs on Switch 2, and if it's any better, just natively.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be nice
because like it probably won't clean up the visuals, but I should hope it'll clean up the frame rate a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a matter of is it limited to the hardware? I actually don't know.
Yeah. I guess we'll find out in a few months whenever the Switch 2 comes out.
Yeah, I'm sure Digital Foundry will do a whole thing about this too.
Probably.
Anyways,
give me one of yours, Garret.
All right, this one was really on the top of my list because I played it on Switch and it was so bad in some areas. Monster Hunter Stories 2.
That was on my list too. Yeah. In fact, the first one's kind of not great either. So I was going to lump in Monster Hunter Stories 1 and 2 together.
I can't believe 1 is not good because it's pretty okay on 3DS. So
yeah. Well, they did some visual upgrades to it, which meant that it doesn't run that great on Switch. So
yeah, it just did not optimize well. But yeah, Monster Hunter Stories 2, it got to the point in some towns where it went down below like 20 frames. Yep. It's so bad.
Yep.
I did beat that game throughout from beginning to end on Switch. I remember playing it. But yeah, it was just some towns, some areas. It was very hard to play. This one. Fortunately, it's a turn-based game. So a lot of these are turn-based games that is like, it doesn't really affect the gameplay too much per se, but yeah, this one's
sure, but like rough. You're in that town enough, Garret, where it makes a difference.
It really is. Yeah, it was like one or two towns. So I'm just like,
yeah,
are we really running it like this?
That's why, like, when they did release those games last year on other consoles, I immediately picked them up on PlayStation and just I'll play them there rather than waiting for Switch 2. Because this is one of those things where I would love Capcom to go back and do like an update to it, but I don't know if they're going to at this point, which is too bad. But yeah, that's definitely one that I had too, Garrett. But another one we mentioned when we were talking about Avowed, The Outer Worlds on Switch.
Oh, I have this on my list too.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That game was trash on Switch. I'm sorry. I don't like to say that often about games, but I remember, especially that first version of Outer Worlds. Garrett, do you remember the videos surfacing of the?
I remember the videos like
Outer
random
Worlds?
like assets not showing up and popping up, and it's bad. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, they've updated it, so maybe it's a little better, but it's still not that great. So, was the developer Saber Interactive?
On that one, I believe so.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Let's see here. You can get it for $30 on Switch, The Outer Worlds. Yeah, they don't even say it on. They say the developer's Obsidian,
Right.
the publisher's private division. So yeah.
Yeah.
But then they did an Outer Worlds definitive edition kind of deal, right? Like.
Yeah, they did that when the DLC came out, but
yeah.
I don't think the DLC came to Switch.
Yeah. What was it called?
It was like the Spacer's Choice Edition or something like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. I'm just trying to gather. The Spacer's Choice. You're correct. Was that on Switch?
I don't think it was.
Choice.
I'm pretty sure that's only on next gen consoles.
Oh, okay.
Because they did that as part of like the PS5 and Series X upgrade for Outer Worlds.
Okay. But that one was trash too.
Yeah. Well, they updated on the current consoles, so it actually runs much better now.
Okay. But anyways, Outer Worlds 1 on Switch was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a game that deserves better. It actually would be pretty fun to play like portably, which is too bad it just turned out to not play so well.
Yeah, definitely. I did, of course, I put in Witcher 3 in here because it, let me tell you, they really knocked down the resolution in order to make it somewhat stable. It's better on Switch Lite because of the pixel density itself is higher, and it runs mostly okay, which is a marvel, actually, having Switch hardware running Witcher 3.
I was just about to say, it's a miracle that console even runs that game at all.
Yeah, I don't know what CD Projekt Red did, but it's some magic. Because I hear it's playable, it works. So, Witcher 3 is kind of an easy one to pull in. Is there any major ones on your list, Ryan?
The one that I had that you can perfectly play on Switch, but I feel like it would make a really good upgraded version for Switch 2 with like new visuals and frame rate increases is Fire Emblem Three Houses.
I put Fire Emblem Three Houses or like the games generally in there too.
Yeah, because like Engage, I feel like it plays well enough because
Engage is pretty good. Yeah,
because you're not running around the school and things like that. Like that, for example, running around the school in Three Houses is really big and it's rough. But even like visually, when you're on like the battlefields and stuff, they look like it almost looks like a 3DS game blown up on your TV. But I really feel like that's the type of game that really that people really love. That I think really deserves like a new coat of paint, to both visually and with the frame rate. I think like doing just like an HD version of that on Switch 2, I think would be really cool.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Especially when I was playing Fire Emblem Three Houses, like it was a great running game, and I was like, oh, I'm glad I'm playing this. But I think you're right. When you get to the school itself, I'm like, that looks like a early PS3 game.
Yep.
To me, it looks pretty jagged. I want them to amp up the resolution, man, on these games, especially on the bigger screens. It looks pretty rugged. So yeah, Fire Emblem Three Houses would be pretty cool to have.
Yeah. Especially too, because it's old enough now where like, because you have to remember that game is
6 years old.
6 years old at this point. Like by the time, like I think that would be like a really good like re-release for like next year for Switch 2, like in the early part of the year.
Yeah. Re-release would be great. Yeah, I just wonder how much they're gonna do these re-releases, man. Like it would be.
Well, we see Nintendo do it a lot now, but you're right. Like, how much are they really going to concentrate on re-releasing stuff for Switch 2 when they do, new stuff? But I still think you're going to get a handful of them. Kind of like Switch 1 when it first came out, because you had, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Captain Toad, and Tokyo Mirage Sessions. Like, you had a bunch of that stuff in that first year. So I'm expecting something similar with this, where even though, there are cross-platform versions, I think Nintendo will see the dollar signs and know people will buy a new version of these games, even if they offer it as not at a full price.
All right. So I have something on my list I think you'll find quite interesting. And it's just because of the potential functionality of Switch 2 that's separated from the Switch 1.
Okay.
That is potentially mouse capabilities. So I put in here Doom.
Interesting.
But no, well, Doom is Doom is not an RPG. But I was thinking of Doom, but I was also thinking of Diablo 3.
Oh, that's interesting.
I was thinking Diablo 3. I was thinking CRPGs. So I was thinking Diablo 3, Divinity Original Sin 2.
Yeah.
It runs pretty okay on Switch 1, but like, can you imagine with like the mouse capabilities?
Yeah.
It'd be pretty good.
I also feel like that's going to come into play when Baldur's Gate 3 inevitably comes to Switch 2.
Oh, for sure. 100%. So, yeah, and think of that mouse capability as like, oh, yeah, they could do a lot more computer-based role-playing games for you nerds out there. Put your little tablets on the little table and then have your little Joy-Cons, flip it. You go.
You just kind of click to the side here.
Click to the side there. But
you don't have keyboard though. Support. You just got mouse support.
That's true. You don't have keyboard, but I think you have a little bit of buttons on your left hand, so you could do some stuff with it for sure. But it would be interesting how developers uses that functionality, and wonder how much support it'll get.
Yeah. Because like Civ 7, as an example, just came out on Switch. But like, does that get a Switch 2 port with like mouse support? Like, because something like that it's a strategy game. It would of course make more sense if you play it with mouse support, a mouse versus a controller.
So yeah, I was thinking really Diablo 3 is like the major one. Like bring forward is like come. And even though it runs really well on Switch, the online doesn't really work on Switch. It's so weird. But just bring that forward and have mouse capabilities. Like that would be pretty cool to have.
Nice. The last series that I actually had, Garrett, was actually the series that's on the thumbnail. Atelier Ryza, the trilogy.
That's true.
I think it would be really good because from what I've seen, Garrett, because I tried playing the first one on Switch. Before seeing the PlayStation 4 version, I was just like, I can't play this on Switch anymore. I have to play it on PS4 because it runs at 60 frames on PlayStation 4, whereas it barely runs at 30, if not 20 on Switch.
It's fine.
And the second one and third one are real rough from what I've seen on Switch.
It gets pretty, it stretches the limit.
Whereas I feel like that trilogy, like they could do like a triple pack, kind of like they did with some of the other Atelier games for Switch 2 at full price, offering some really meaningful upgrades for those games. Like I think Gust is probably going to want to do that with to get people into those games, especially with Yumiya around the corner too. Like that's another one too where I'm like, how is that game even going to look on Switch?
It's going to be rough
versus the other consoles. Yeah,
didn't they showcase it on Switch? I thought they did, but
I think that's where we first saw it. Was at the Nintendo Direct, and
it reminds me of Scarlet and Violet.
yeah, but because we saw it later at a different showcase. I think it was. I couldn't remember. I think it was on the Xbox showcase that we saw it because they showed it at like the Japanese Direct where they announced that Atelier Yumiya was coming to Xbox, and they showed it there, and it looked like night and day difference between the two. So that's a series, Garrett, where it's just like I someone who wants to get into the Atelier games, like because and the Switch is where I first played them, and it was not a good experience for me.
No.
So like, I feel like that's another series, and there's a lot of the series out there like Disgaea or Ys, like so a lot of these more indie RPGs that really will probably benefit from Switch 2. For God's sakes, with Disgaea 6, Garrett. I remember us talking about this before. The Switch version of that game, which I reviewed a long time ago on my old channel, it gave you the option of running the game at 15 frames a second, but it would be readable. Or you could play it at 60 frames per second, but like all the characters would be like extremely fuzzy, like you could barely make out who anyone was, or the text would be all fuzzy and stuff like that. It's just like, take your pick, which one do you prefer? Whereas the PlayStation version of Disgaea 6, it was just you got both. You got 60 frames per second and you could read the text. There you go.
Wow. Yeah. No, you're right. Those would be great ones to have an uplift. I always, there was some games that I get on sale on Switch and then get super cheap on Steam. It was like a few years ago or something like that. And then once I got the Steam Deck, it's just like, obviously I'm going to play on Steam Deck because it just runs better. Yep. And just, I can have the same functionality as Switch and have achievements and lock to my PC ecosystem. So yeah, it would be great to have that kind of upgrade with the Atelier games. I played, Rise of 1 on Switch as well. I'm like, yeah, it's rough, but I'll play it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm thinking of Square Enix games. I think for the most part, they do a pretty good job.
Yeah,
with the Switch version. The two games that I was thinking that would be great to have an uplift and like forwarded over Switch 2 is actually the Dragon Quest Builders games. They're pretty okay on Switch, but they are still locked at 30 frames.
Yeah.
And that game is a super cute, super chibi like game that you go around and do some action-based combats and build stuff. So it would be great to have that, just like smooth it out a little bit higher resolution and be like some definitive edition pack of 1 and 2 together on Switch 2. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, especially because those games are also on PlayStation 4 and they look and run way better on that or Xbox, because I think it's on both those consoles.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of my like last big one I wanted to point out was the Dragon Quest Builders game. I love those games a lot. I know Sean does too. It's a very cute game. Very directed Minecraft RPG light game, which is super cool.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know I can't see mentions they want Diablo 4 on Switch 2.
Yeah, I think that'll be inevitable. I think Diablo 4 on Switch 2 will happen, and it will have that mouse. I really think they'll have that mouse functionality.
You just click it around.
I could just see someone at the airport,
just clicking away. Diablo, just clicking on a bunch of demons.
Yeah, they're at the charging desks. They have their little Switch 2 out with the little stand, and then they're just hunched over with their headphones. You got the little back posture going on.
You're gonna have to bring your mouse pad with you.
Yeah, you definitely need to bring your mouse pad with. I wonder if they'll have an exclusive Nintendo Switch mouse pad for like,
oh my God,
$40 or something like that.
Probably $40. That's being conservative. 50.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 50 plus tax. Yeah. But yeah, I could totally see that. And then like a couple years from now, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm playing Diablo 4 on my little handheld tablet.
Yeah, and not the Steam Deck, actual handheld tablet. Oh. Okay. But yeah, I think that was a good list of games, Garrett. Honestly, I can't wait to see like what some of these companies do with Switch 2. Like how many of these are going to get re-releases, how many of them are going to get free upgrades, or how any of that stuff's going to work. Like I think it's going to be like super interesting for Switch 2, because there's so much stuff on Switch 1 that not even just RPGs. A lot of, like you kind of hinted at with Doom, a lot of other like non-RPGs really could use this treatment too. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think more so with action-based games than, Bayonetta 3.
Yeah, the Ninja Gaiden Master Collection. Oh, man, that Switch version is real bad.
Is it rough? Okay, yeah.
I think it's worse than Witcher 3.
That's bad.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad, yeah. They got away with it. They're like, you want this game on Switch? Sure, here you go. It's going to be a dumpster fire. But here you go.
But you can play it.
You can play it. And then Nintendo says, thank you so much. Let me play this, my 15 frames per second game on Switch 1. But
nice.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Garrett, before we go, we got another question from the NPCs.
Go for it.
I like this question. This comes just from Ryu, who says, what is your favorite RPG from each decade? 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s. The only RPG from the 80s that I've ever played is a little bit of Final Fantasy 1, so I'm not going to count that decade but for me, my picks are for the 90s, Xenogears, the 2000s, Persona 3, 2010s, Trails to Azure, and then 2020s, Elden Ring. So I'll give you some time to think, Garrett, while I give you mine. So first off, 1980s. For me, I mean, there aren't, like you said, Ryu, there aren't a ton of like RPGs that I really liked from the 80s in particular. It's kind of tied between Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy 1. And yes, I said Dragon Warrior and not Dragon Quest. That's just what I'm used to saying from the NES. But a lot of the top RPGs kind of came out in the 90s. From they really started to come into their own then, like when we started getting like Shining Force, Phantasy Star, and stuff like that. So I would say 1990s is a tough one because you've got kind of the PlayStation 1 stuff, but also the Super Nintendo stuff. So for me on this one, it's probably Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy 6. It's probably Final Fantasy 6 actually in the 90s. Cool. So that's my 90s one. 2000s, this one's a little bit easier. It's for me, it's the original Mass Effect. I actually love that game. It's up there with the Knights of the Republic and Persona 3 and a bunch of other games from the 90s. But if you want to talk shop here, I would say Mass Effect. 2010s for me is also an easy one. Persona 5 is probably my favorite one from the 2010s. And then 2020s, it's kind of like it's a close one between Metaphor and 13 Sentinels for me. And I'm probably going to give the edge to 13 Sentinels. Aegis Rim. I freaking love that game. The story is incredible. The strategy combat's great. And it's just a masterpiece of a game. So those are my picks. But Garrett, how about you?
What's
your favorite 80s RPG?
Yeah, I definitely have an 80s one. Yeah.
Oh, I know the correct answer for this one, actually. I didn't mention it before. Zelda 2.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Best 80s RPG.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about that game with you.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Great.
You guys were insane. Anyways, okay. 80s, I don't have any. Of course, I haven't played really much RPGs back in the 80s. There's not much out there, too. So
yeah, and unless you were playing like text RPGs or whatnot, there just weren't a ton of console RPGs back then.
90s is a bit interesting. I only played like a handful of RPGs from that era, but I'm gonna have to give it to Chrono Trigger for this one. I think I was just very pleasantly surprised. I was going throughout that game. I was going in blind as well. Like I haven't heard anything about it or anything like that. I didn't know the combat at all or the characters, so it was a really pleasant surprise going through it and being as good as it is. It was very memorable. So Chrono Trigger for the 90s. 2000s, it's a pretty easy one for me. It's going to be Pokemon, and it's going to be Pokemon Emerald. That was one of the seminal Pokemon games I grew up with and I've played multiple times with. So yeah, definitely Pokemon Emerald is up there. And then for the 2010s, this was an easy one as well for me. It was Witcher 3. That one really set my eyes like, I love open world. I love this lore. I love going through exploration as Geralt and being a Witcher and going through decisions and everything. Witcher 3 is just cream of the crop for me. It was so good. 2020s it was a bit conflicting, and actually it's really Atlas RPGs trying to take over my heart in the 2020s. I was pretty conflicted with actually Persona 3 Reload, Shin Megami Tensei 5, and Metaphor. After playing Metaphor and going through all of that, it's a great game, but I think I still like Persona 3 Reload a little more. And I think it's just really because of characters in the story and the setting. It's just a preference for me. Of course, there's definitely negatives of Persona 3 Reload, so I don't want to say it's all like perfect or whatever, but I think there's just the characters resonate a little bit more with me in that one than anything else. So there you go. Those are my RPGs of the decades.
Of the decades. Nice.
Of the decades.
Now, I can't see chimes in and says, was that isometric RPG called Immortal? I believe you're referring to The Immortal on the NES. That one came out in the 80s. And that game, I don't like that game. But it was like a PC game that was converted for consoles. And it's almost like a CRPG, but for the NES. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I know there's some people out there. There was a whole Angry Video Game Nerd episode about that game, which is interesting. Really? Also, I like this one from I Can't See as well. I remastered Diablo 1, but update the UI and add controller support. I wish they'd do that. That'd be cool. Yeah, especially because we just saw that come to PC Game Pass, and I'm like, if only they went that extra mile. And
they have Diablo 2 on Switch. I have it, and it's pretty good.
Diablo 1 does actually exist in console form with controller support, but only on the PlayStation 1, Garrett. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah, you never know. That could be a game that comes to like PSN one day.
Oh, at some point. Definitely.
Yeah. Because there's also, Garrett, I don't know if you do this, but on PlayStation 1, there's also a version of Warcraft 2.
Yes. I actually knew about that one.
A real-time strategy game on PlayStation 1, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. Then like Command and Conquer on N64 and or something like that. Yeah. They had some interesting ports back in the day. But I think the real-time strategy game has definitely been streamlined on controller support. I think ever since Halo Wars. Halo Wars did a really good job at controller support.
This is why we need StarCraft 64 to come back to Switch Online. It needs to be a thing. That would be great. But anyways, that's going to do it for this episode of the RPG Cave. But before we go, we got to say thank you to all of our patrons over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming, starting with our ultimate producers, Jonathan Brown, the man behind the music on the Xbox Drive and the PlayStation Drive. You can find his link tree over at linktr.ee/pme.gib, including a brand new deluxe version of his new album, Me, Myself, and I, which of course has a new track with $2 Hero on it. We know that person. So make sure to go check it out. His music's great. Cwagmire, who humbly reminds you that the best babes are in fact Xenobabe, and TechMike, who says, whether you're Kevesi or Agnian, you're a Xenobabe at heart. Links to all of our ultimate producers can always be found in the description of our podcast, so be sure to check them out and support them because they're really awesome. Our platinum producers, Smokin Joe, The Solo, The Captain, and Tim Paullin, and our gold members, Adam K, Anna, Awesome Dave 1337, Brad Moore, Brian Reese, Cecily Carrozza, Dan and Luma, Dannohh, Emily O'Kelly, John 32, Ligerwoods 330, OldMrFrump, Patrice Mallette, Peje, Riley King, Shane Erickson, Stephen Keller, TheDonRob, the Jiggy Collector, and Toxic. Huge thanks once again to all of our patrons over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming. If you want to head over there, hop in the car with us and choose the tier that's right for you. And now Garrett, plugs go.
You can follow me on Blue Sky at Blind Explosion, and you can find me on the Discord. I'm on the PC and the RPG now. I feel like I'm regularly watching those channels now. Just seeing all the different subjects and reading all your messages on RPG Cave for sure. What else? I'm in Backlogged as well. I've been trying to be, going back to it, logging in my reviews. I've done my Metaphor review, I've done my Mario and Luigi review. So go check out my backlog over there. It's not particularly long, not particularly extensive. I really tried to be as strict as I can with myself with gaming this year. So at least in terms of focus, like I want to focus on the games I want to play rather than I'm just gonna play a game here or there type of deal. So but it's going well so far.
Nice. Glad to hear it's going well. As for me, you can find me on the Discord at Ryan Turford. I'm also on Backlogged at Ryan Turford as well. And I'm going crazy over there, Garrett, because
you are going crazy.
I played, started and finished two games yesterday. I basically did the video game equivalent of going to the drive-in and seeing two movies back to back, but I played two video games back to back because I played through all of Super Mario Brothers 3 with no warp whistles, and then just played through all of Metroid Zero Mission, just because. So
okay, cool.
Yeah. That was my day yesterday. So yeah, that's games number 10 and 11 that I've beaten this year. So
nice, cool.
I'm getting up there. So you can follow all those adventures over in Backlogged, and I do write a little review for every one of those, even the games that I replayed. So make sure to check that out over there. But otherwise, for Garrett Bland, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been the 171st level of the RPG Cave, and we're out.
Bye-bye.